Hi there, BookTube! My name is Christina and welcome back to Novel Niche. If my face is all red, it's just because I sneezed right this moment when I was starting a video, because why not? But here we are today with, I hope, a short review for a fantasy/folklore book that I read this winter, and it's The Sisters of Winterwood, written by Rena Rosner. And this is an author about which we're hearing more and more right now, because she just recently released another book, not set in the same world from what I know, but just another book. So her name came back kind of to the BookTube community, and this first one had kind of a buzz around it at the beginning, but then it died out and I almost never heard about this book anymore. So I just wanted to put a review out there. It's a completely non-spoiler review, so be reassured you won't hear more than is just strictly necessary. And this is, again, a fantasy folklorish book that is set in a real geographical place. So it's set in between, I believe, Ukraine and Moldova or something like that. And it is based on some historical events that actually really happened at the beginning of, like, in 1910, something like that. So around those years. So before the First World War, and yeah, some in those years, let's say like that. And it has a historical setting, but it's still a fantasy fairy tale like story. This book is the one that I own. First of all, look at the cover, it's absolutely beautiful. I own this paperback edition and it's 450 pages long, but it really seems shorter. And the reason why is the way it's written, because one chapter is written in prose and the next one is written in verses. And this is due to the fact that this book has two main points of view, and we're following two sisters. The first one is the one that's more like sensible. She is more about caring for her family and trying to be a good daughter to her father. We have some real cultural historical background for this, and the family of these two girls, who are the main protagonists of this story, is Jewish, and so they're following some of the cultural aspects and religious aspects of being Jewish. So she wants to be a good Jew, she wants to be a part of her community, and she's the one who talks in course in prose. But then we have the other sister, and she's the youngest one. The oldest one has like around 17, 18 years old. The youngest one has around 14, 15 maybe, I believe. And she's the one speaking in verses, because she's the light-hearted, light-headed one, the most beautiful one apparently, the fairest one, but at the same time the one who desires freedom and to leave the place behind more than anything. And so we're following this family of two sisters and a mother and a father. And one evening they discover a secret that deals with their family, something that has to do with a bear and a swan, as you may see here on the cover. And when they discover this secret, they're kind of left with this secret, literally, because the parents suddenly have to leave and go away to a different city, and so they're left behind with this heavy secret without knowing what to do, with a city that starts to have it's a little town that starts to have a bunch of problems, like foreigners who are very strange, very alluring and charming, but unnaturally charming, so it seems like maybe someone from the fairy folk. And a lot of things start to happen, so there is this kind of build-up of tension in town, and the Jews begin to be blamed for what is happening, and so they are just trying to navigate like their reality plus this secret plus their teenage years when their hormones are kind of all over the place. That's the easiest way I have to describe it. And following this story, we have some fairy tale-like aspects, like for example, there are some elements that really resemble the Goblin Market. Plus, I believe that the author, from what I remember, really used this image of the swan and the bear, taking these two animals from the folklore and the fairy tales of Russia, Ukraine, and the geographical setting in which this story is actually set. And this is kinda perfect as a fairy tale retelling and a fairy tale like story, because the main reason why I've not enjoyed that much this book is that the characters, our main protagonists, they're very stereotypical in the sense that they looked very bidimensional, like a character in a fairy tale. So there wasn't that depth of character that I wanted. It was very more plain and probably easier to understand and to follow the story this way, but I really wanted a little bit more of depth. But this aspect can be positive or negative, and the positive side is that it's very fairy tale like. So that's something that you have to keep in mind. And the reason why I wasn't a huge fan of this book at the end of the day was because I wasn't able to get in touch and to really understand the motivations and the actions of the two sisters. One of them seemed like too lightheaded and doing random stuff for no reason, and the other one was constantly too worried about everything. And my main issue with that was that she cried like every 2 chapters. This character cried, and I'm all in for good emotions, like represented emotions, even if it's sadness or anger or stuff like that. But personally, I cannot stand people who cry all of the time, so that's just my personal taste. So that's the reason why I wasn't a huge fan of the characters, and for this reason I also had a little bit more of a struggle to go through the story and to follow it seamlessly. Overall, this book was around probably somewhere in the middle. It wasn't very good, it wasn't very bad, so it stands in the middle for me. I won't be keeping this copy, I will be giving it away because I won't reread it in the future. But for sure, something good was that I discovered more about something that historically happened to the Jewish community in that geographical area. And on the other side, the thing that I disliked was the characters and the fact that the ending, personally for me, was very anticlimactic. There was this big build-up and I hoped for something more by the end of the book, and it kinda solved in a very easy fairy tale-like way. So it's very fairy tale, folklorish in this case. But I really hoped for something more from a book of this size. So this is very personal again. I suggest you to give it a try, and maybe you will fall in love with the atmosphere of this book, considering that there is an aspect of retelling, there is an aspect of historical basis for the events of this book. So if you had the chance to read it, let me know what were your thoughts. If you're planning to read it, let me know down below when you will finish it and what are your thoughts about this book. For me, it was kind of in the middle, so and so, nothing too special, nothing too bad to complain about, but yeah, just kind of in the middle. So this is my review for this book. I know it's not very specific, but it was the most I could do without spoiling anything, literally anything about this book. And I hope that you enjoyed this video, and let me know down below if you will read it, or if you read it, or if you're interested in this book, or if you already read the other book by this same author that has been recently released from what I got. So this is it for this video, and I will see you very, very soon in my next one. Bye! Ciao!